you guys want to hear a funny story though? I just thought about this right now. So in 2017, me and my sister, we went to Bangladesh and we took our white British friend to Bangladesh with us.
Why?
She just wanted to go. She just wanted to go. And I mean, I wouldn't just take anyone to Bangladesh with me, especially like, not from South Asia or like, but no, she's all right. She's a cool girl. So we took her with us and we told her that when she was at immigration, she would have to sing the Bengali national anthem. Otherwise, they're not going to let her in. So this girl is a massive stress head, by the way. Shout out Emma. This girl is a massive stress head.
Mean. Why would you do that?
Massive stress head. So like and obviously she was relying on us to teach her, right? But we just kept being dead shifty, like, yeah, we'll teach you later. And like the entire flight, she was like, can you teach me now? We taught her like the first two lines, and we were like, yeah, we'll teach you later. This girl got to immigration. She's now landed. She's walked up to immigration. She's absolutely cacking her pants. She stood there like ready to sing, and she's looking at us expectantly, like to give her the cues, and we were like, yeah, we're just pranking you. And she's like, if I wasn't in public right now, I would be crying.
That's so mean. If that was me, I would be fuming. Like, honestly,
It was just, guys, colonial reparations, innit? one bit at a time.
Allow it. Yeah.
So, a bit of a context, guys. I think it's 90-something% of British Bangladeshis are actually Sylheti. So Sylheti is again, it's like further regionalism. So it's like, you know how like here we have like Mancunian or Liverpudlian, like that. So Sylheti is an area in the northeast, and we have our own language. Like Sylheti is its own language. We don't speak Bangla. It's almost mutually intelligible with Bangla, but it is its own distinct language. So 90-something% of British Bangladesh is actually Sylheti. My own family were Sylheti, and growing up, I thought that all Bengalis were Sylheti because that's all I ever saw in this country. But the history of that is just because of Lascars are basically shipmen. So during the colonial era, obviously a lot of trade and export between kind of colonial India, specifically Bengal and the UK. There were higher Sylheti because we have ports, right? So they would hire like Sylheti Lascars, and then sometimes they would kind of like sneakily get off in London in Spitalfields, by the docks, and like not get back on the boats, and they kind of like formed their own communities. And then obviously chain migration in the post war period and the post independence period specifically, and so that's how a lot of Sylheti Bengalis settled in the UK, and we tend to actually be involved. We're very, very instrumental in like the Indian cuisine industry. Like I think again the figure is either 94% or 97% of Indian restaurants are actually Bangladeshi owned. So like, well, when I say British Bangladeshi, it's almost interchangeable with Sylheti because I said it's 90-something% that are Sylheti. But I remember actually like I when I met one of my friends for the first time, and I was kind of like talking to him a lot about like Bangladeshi culture and people, and I was saying how like Bangladesh has been very instrumental in shaping like British culture, right? And he was like, oh, in what way? Like what? And he was thinking of like art and things like that. But actually, British Bangladeshis have been very, very formative in a lot of labour movements in the UK, specifically anti-racist and anti-fascist movements in the 70s. So, as I said, because of the way that Bengali people created the chain of migration, which was I mentioned like through the Spitalfield docks in East London. So Tower Hamlets is actually the place where, and like Brick Lane specifically, is the place where is the largest British Bangladeshi population basically in this country. And they have a very, very kind of rich and very politically active history over there because, as I said, the Bangladeshi migration is in some ways very different to other South Asian migration because, for example, the Indian diaspora in the UK, 50% of the Indian diaspora are Gujarati, and a lot of them came from wealth, right? So this really speaks to roots of migration and how people migrate and what people migrate from and where people migrate to. And a lot of the Silatis came from poverty to poverty, right? And that really informed the political subjectivities and positionalities of Bangladeshi people in the UK, because we came to this country and we were living in poverty largely, to be honest with you, working in sweatshops in the UK. There was a whole squatters movement, and that is why Bangladesh and facing a lot of racist persecution. So I can't really say the word here, like the P word.
Yeah.
P word bashing. The P word comes from the practice of P word bashing, right? In the 60s and 70s, and Bangladeshis were, I mean, all South Asians, you know, like I'm speaking specifically about the Bangladeshi community, were very active in the resistance movements against that, specifically following the death of a young Bangladeshi factory worker called Altab Ali in East London. He was brutally murdered by Nazis, basically. And then it caused a massive movement of anti-racist resistance, not just obviously Bengali people were leading it, but they were specifically collaborating with black communities, which is something that, to be honest, it annoys me that this is a part of our history that Bengali people forget when they want to do up anti-blackness. Like, it's really embarrassing. But when we needed help and we were organizing against the, you know, racists, it was a black community that were marching alongside us and were doing up activism alongside us, and when they need help, we're just perpetuating the same old white supremacy. The side note, but still, get a grip, Bengalis. Anyways, yeah, so Bengalis were very instrumental in leading those movements. They were very instrumental in labor unions, trade unions, because they were, again, Bangladesh is really famous for textiles, so a lot of textiles workers would come from Bangladesh to this country. They were working in factories, really terrible conditions, so they were very played a formative role in that. They played a very formative role in housing unions and housing rights as well, because of the Bangladeshi squatters movements in the 70s. So, and Bangladesh is actually, I think, were the largest ethnic minority with an almost 100% Labour vote. So very left-wing people. I mean, the founding constitution of Bangladesh is a socialist constitution, by the way. So, yeah.
Makes sense now.
Yeah.
Literally.
Why I'm so staunchly left-wing, yeah.
Well, you spoke briefly before about Brick Lane obviously being like a focal point in terms of Bangladeshi migration.
Yeah.
Obviously, in more recent times, this has, or especially like the past few years, I believe,
Gentrification, yeah.
And it's I've forgotten what it is exactly, but there is something.
The Truman Brewery.
Yeah, they're literally it's trying to eradicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so Brick Lane itself has a very rich history, like beyond British-Bangladeshi history, because it was obviously a stronghold for the Jewish community, and then like Bangladeshis came over, and I don't know, for those who have not been to Brick Lane, like, it's not even England, like, it's really not. The street sign is literally written in Bangla, like you walk down and it feels, well, actually, like, every time I go now, because I go anytime I'm in London, and I have a lot of family in the East End as well, so naturally, and every time I go, the change is palpable, you know, and it's a very important place to British Bangladeshis, because it's the heart of the British Bangladeshi community, essentially. You know, it's where a lot of businesses were built, a lot of people kind of built themselves up, a lot of livelihoods are surround that area, and unfortunately, I mean, it's the age-old story of gentrification. If you don't know, like, go educate yourself on it, but yeah, it is being gentrified now, and there are a lot of Bangladeshi businesses. I mean, the curry industry itself is kind of dying out now, but a lot of Bangladeshi business owners are being pushed out, increased rent prices, because you know, other white businesses are moving in and taking over, and the market and the demographic is changing, and it is, guys. There's a lot of like petitions and pushbacks as well to this, because I think there's the Truman Brewery that are that's kind of like a stronghold in Brick Lane, and
Right.
and there have been some recent campaigns trying to push back against that. So anytime you see anything to do with that, or you know, like, you should go and educate yourself on that yourself. Like, do try and sign whatever petitions you can, send whatever emails you can, because it's a very, very pressing thing right now.
Yeah, and I think as well, like when you think about, like, we're all ethnic minorities, but like thinking as well, just throughout this episode, the amount that you've described in terms of like levels, and in terms of the so many ways in which Bangladeshi people have been oppressed or have been held down, peasantry, lower class income, etc.
2 liberation fights, an entire 2 genocides, right? Like,
and like the fact that for British Bangladeshis, they're one thing that they have, like, as like theirs,
sense of community and place and identity and belonging is now, it's erasure. That's what it is. It's essentially erasure, and erasure is violent, you know, like it was the Bangladeshi community that made Brick Lane to be what it is today. It's the Bangladeshi community that brought in commerce and business and gave it culture the way that we see Brick Lane to be today. And it's this kind of exotic thing that you know, specifically white Brits are attracted to, and unfortunately they don't know how to interact with that thing, with that cultural artifact responsibly. And their way of interacting is to displace and to dispossess, right? And erase.
Or like think, oh, this is interesting, let me start my own thing that is like this,
right,
in exactly the same place.
But drive up rent prices or like whatever else, so that the actual people who don't have anywhere else to go are pushed out and displaced and dispossessed. It's guys, take a stand against this wherever you see it, you know.
Probably coming to the end of our discussion now, so I just want to end it by asking you, Halima, like, what does it mean to you to be British Bangladeshi?
Everyone that knows me knows that, like, people always talk about how much I love Bangladesh and like how I'm one of the most like proudest Bengalis that they know. Like, anyone who will listen, I will try. Guys, I literally walk around with a map of Bangladesh on my neck. Me personally, bro, I love being Bengali, man. Like, that's my ish, you know, like. I love being Bengali. I love coming from Bangladesh. I think it's a beautiful culture, beautiful people. And honestly, I think resilience is like embedded into our people. I think resilience is embedded into our culture. If you think about what Bangladesh has been through, constantly persecuted, constantly marginalized, constantly been the hinterland of the subcontinent. We've been through massive, unimaginable colonial violence. We've been through numerous famines. We've been through genocide at the hands of Churchill. We've been through genocide at the hands of the Pakistani government. We've never had any reparations of any sort. And yet look where we are. You know, we are like inherently revolutionary people. The founding of Bangladesh was steeped in a socialist and abolitionist worldview. Essentially, that's what it is. 50 years later, I know the meaning has gotten lost a lot, and we have been victim to neoliberalism and all of these things, but like essentially the thing that I love about being Bengali is the revolutionary spirit and the organizing spirit of the Bangladeshi people. And it is this spirit that I me personally, I gain sustenance from, that I gain inspiration from, and it's this spirit that I appeal to when I ask Bengali people to do better, right? Especially with regard to minorities in the nation, in the Bangladeshi nation, especially with regard to, you know, women and Dalits, you know, lower caste people and Hindus and indigenous people in Bangladesh. Like, think about what you know one thing, I did an interview when I was doing my fieldwork with a freedom fighter, and I don't know why his story, because this is something that I hear a lot, but specifically his story really resonated with me and really touched a nerve with me, because he was talking about how when they were fighting in the war, he was 17. And he was talking about, he left home, he ran away from home to join the war. His parents didn't want him to, but he ran away because he was so impassioned by the message of the war. And he was talking about how everybody he was fighting, these were ordinary people, by the way. Bangladesh had very, very little formal and organized military campaign. It was mostly, as I said, guerrilla warfare. He was talking about the ideal that Bangladesh was gonna be a better nation, like, and it's so hard to imagine, because like we went there and we see Bangladesh for what it is now, which is doing well, but ultimately there's a lot to work on, right? And he was talking about how there was a genuine belief that they were going to come out of the war and Bangladesh was going to be an equal and just and fair place for everyone, right? And I implore the Bangladeshi people to remember that and to hold on to that and to honor that spirit. And specifically the British-Bangladeshi people, we have fought injustice throughout our entire history, you know, like we have been the victims, and in this context now, especially when I spoke before about like anti-blackness and other forms of discrimination, guys, come on, man. We've been leading revolutions. We also need to be up in arms this time round as well. When I say up in arms, guys, I mean I mean figuratively, you know. I mean leading. I mean leading social justice movements. Please, I'm not
inciting.
Don't come and get me. Don't come and get me, Preeti Patel, please.
No, she's too busy.
Just joking. Oh, she's busy getting her eyebrows done. Yeah, I'm buying panties from Primark.